Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Left of Str8 Show Interviews, the premier podcast that shares the stories of our amazing LGBTQ community and, of course, fantastic straight allies, all from entertainment, foodies, books, music, and advocacy. I'm your host, as always, Scott Fullerton, and let's start talking. Alrighty, everyone, welcome back to another exciting interview here at Left of Str8 Show Interviews. Today, we're thrilled to have the multi-talented Brandon Cole Bailey returning for a second conversation. Since our last chat, Brandon's continued to make waves in the fashion and entertainment industries, further solidifying his place as an international supermodel, actor, and author. With his unique style and undeniable charisma and deep passion for his craft, Brandon definitely brings it all to the table and pushes boundaries. We can't wait to dive deeper into the world and explore what makes such a captivating figure. Join us as we uncover new layers of Brandon's journey, his creative process, and his vision for the future. But first, take a look.
Fun fact, I once shot a Fringe magazine in Central Park nude. It was the moment that I realized that I was going to have to become comfortable in the most uncomfortable places as a model. It was called Les Jardins de l'Amour Perdu, which is the Garden of Lost Love. And let me tell you, it was crazy.
Well, Mr. Brandon Cole Bailey, how the heck are you, my friend?
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me back 1 year later, if I might add, right?
I am so excited. It has been a year. Cheers, my friend. You are still looking handsome as ever, and you're looking way too good for 9 in the morning. We're doing this at 9 in the morning. I'm not real happy about it. I have my Palm Springs tan already fading away after a week. I've only been back since Sunday, but it's great to have you, my friend. You were my most watched video of 2023, most watched interview. It's still streaming like gangbusters, my friend.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, what an honor, honestly. It's nice when you have something to say and people want to hear it.
Well, I think the biggest thing, I throw it around a lot these days, but authenticity. There's not a lot of authentic people out there anymore, and you're always kind of authentic in what you say. You kind of live your truth when you're going on your interviews. You don't hold anything back usually, and I really enjoy that about you because you've had a journey, my friend. I mean, you go through a lot. You're all over the country. You're doing different projects. I mean, you're still an author, so you probably read a lot, I'm guessing, because we all have a lot of downtime between those shoots and everything. But talk about what's been happening in Brandon Cole Bailey's life since last year.
Wow, you know what? There has been so much in the last year. Actually, the last few years. There's a lot we didn't cover in the last podcast interview as well. But, there's just been a lot. I mean, there was the recovery from the pandemic. I think a lot of people are still recovering from that. And as far as, being open and honest, I think that I've always been that way since the moment I was born. I think there was a long time where I hid myself when I started to figure out that I was gay in Florida and being afraid of not staying in a home or, being beat up or even killed for that matter. So I did hide during that period. But when I came to New York and I lived my truth, I've always been honest. It may hurt a lot of people. They may not like it, but it has definitely found me the right people who do like it in my life. And I'm very grateful for that because I am a very straightforward person in my real life and my professional life. I never beat around the bushes. I don't hide things, unless of course there's NDA for good reason, for marketing purposes, whatever. But as far as, my truth and who I am, I've never beat around the bush. And something I've found so much recently, and even worse than ever, and I think may be a lot to do with the pandemic, is people hiding themselves way more than they used to. Like people creating a facade way more than they used to. And I also think it has a lot to do with the Anna Delvey documentary that came out. I think what I've noticed being back in New York post pandemic is that there are so many people coming here and trying to duplicate that, replicate that. So many people coming here and thinking, I'm going to become this super huge famous influencer who, plays this game that I think that all these other people did. But in reality, the originals, there is very few originals of us on social media. I was one of the Instagram original people, and Tumblr original people, and then there you have the YouTube era that was before that. But I was always authentic. I always told my truth. I used my platform to use my writing skills to convey messages that could help others. And what I've noticed a lot of here is people trying to redo things that we've said, or redo the things that the YouTubers or, Tumblr or Instagram said or did, and what they perceived us doing in order to get there. And I see a lot of people like trying to use others, trying to take down people that were already in the place before them, which has never been something that we've done. We never attacked people online to get clicks and views. We never wanted to hurt people. Of course, there was always those moments where it's like, okay, of course, social media is our weapon because we built this platform in order to protect ourselves, to feel safe, to have, a community where we're welcomed, and during the pandemic, that a lot of that changed. A lot changed where people started to attack others and it was no longer really a safe place. And now everybody is, politically incorrect, or they didn't say the right thing, or they used the wrong word because we're not using brat or demur, and
Exactly. Yeah.
some of us are just very straightforward people. We have our, vernacular that we've been so accustomed to and used to in our generation as millennials, that now the Gen Z has their own vernacular that they use, and our vernacular is very offensive because it's very easy to feed off of a platform of being mad
Sure.
at people or hating on people that were already in a position above them beforehand. And the thing is like, that's been hurting me a lot because I have wanted to bring in new stylists. I've wanted to bring in new designers and things like that because I've obviously done a lot of major, not obviously, but anybody that's been following me for a long time
Sure.
has seen that I've done a lot of major big brands, and it was not without hard work. There was a lot of things I had to do to get there,
Exactly.
and a lot of sweat, blood, and tears. But you know, never would I, go online and use that whole Jeffree Star mentality of like attacking somebody else to get more views to sell products, like it's all
Right.
it's all for monetary gain, like you have straight men preying off the gays for monetary gain, and then you have gay men pretending to be straight still. And I'm like, this is 2024 for monetary gain. No, what about your
Right.
life? What about helping others? What about promoting positivity and helping others feel important and special? And that's been something that has been, really on my mind lately. It's just like, wow, because I see an inside look in every part of the industry, right? Because I've been around a-listers and all of that in the industry and the inside and on sets and, behind the scenes and throwing shows and emceeing shows. And like, I've seen the way, and not only just in New York, but in LA, in Miami, in Australia, in India, so I've seen how people are, and people are the same everywhere. You have the same type of things going on, whether people believe the movies and how they portray the other countries or whatever. It's still the same everywhere. And
Right.
by seeing all of those things, it's really allowed me to just like see a different side of people and really like understand people. Like my friends have this my friends and I have this thing where it's like we can see somebody and already know who that person is at this point. I mean, you see hundreds of people in New York City a day every time you leave your apartment. You interact with, maybe 20 to 100 people in a day. Like if you go out
Right.
to a club or a bar or whatever, and you just can know how people are already going to be by the first like sentence sometimes, which is not the best mentality to have, but You can see a lot of those things very clearly. And I guess to get back to what I was talking about, because I kind of went off there, is that I wish people would have more of this mentality of being real. And if that means that
Right.
you don't want to speak to somebody who is strangely coming up to you and their energy is way off and you don't know what they want from you, then you don't have to talk to that stranger. You don't know that stranger. You maybe aren't in a setting for meeting new people. Maybe you're with a group of friends, whatever it may be. But it's not necessary to, entertain every single stranger that comes up to you or into your life. And it's also very important to protect your energy and to stay authentic. And we're losing that as a society. I think the
Right.
moment we started to truly lose that was the TikTok era, where everybody was just copying what other influencers did or creators, and also copying the same dances. And so we've now become a society of sheep. And when I was in acting school, my acting professor, um, one thing he always said that always stuck with me, and whether I loved him or not, and whether he was nice to me or not, this was I'm very grateful for is don't be a sheep. And growing up as a child, my mother always told me, I would be like in the toy aisle at the store, right? And I would want something, and she's like, is this because all your friends want it? Because it doesn't seem like you want it, it doesn't seem like something that you enjoy. And I would be like, well, no, I wanted it. But then looking back, it's like my mom taught me how to be an individual. And
Right.
I think that's very important in society. It's something I will teach my kids, or any of my nephews or nieces. Like, it's very important to know that it's good to be an individual. And I think I fought so long for that individuality because, I had agencies telling me, oh, you shouldn't be putting that online. If you want to get these clients, you shouldn't be a brand. You need, if whatever. And what's crazy is we now live in a society where people want brands want brands, because that means that you are you. You've created
Yeah.
something that is you. You've built that. You have, a foundation. You have trust within people because you've curated, your individuality.
There you go. Well, that's a lot to unpack there. You had your coffee, my friend. Goodness
Oh, I
gracious.
sure did.
But I agree 100%. I mean, we talked about, you talked on a lot of important things. We talked about the negative culture. I mean, Perez Hilton's day is long gone, right? He learned from his things. You don't need to be that mean person online in order to get clicks or views or whatever. I think the authenticity part is so strong. I mean, you and I have been able to stay connected for the last year. We talk on Instagram from time to time. I mean, it's hard to keep those connections when you're not in the same city, but we have a great social media connection. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you back now, is because you're kind of talking about, we'd talked before about different substance abuse in the past and the world of modeling and how these things get into it. And you've decided, you kind of let yourself try a couple times a week, have some alcohol. You've decided to go and quit that again, and you feel like it's the best thing you've ever done. I just had Jordan Dow on the other day, who, of course, came from YouTube, that was strong and back in a movie. And same thing, he kind of moved to Michigan to get rid of that whole party scene and everything going on. So I really love that part of the authenticity. Talk about seeing those eyes. I mean, you kind of find yourself, I can do this, a couple drinks, and then all of a sudden you get into, let's do it as often as I need to. What made you decide to stop again? And what is that clarity has brought you the last 30 days or so?
Yeah. So you know what? I feel like the reason it took me this long is because there was a lot more lessons I need to learn. I think the first few times, yeah, it was my mistakes I was making that needed me to stop. But this time around, I also got to learn that there's a lot of people that are out to get you. And whether or not you're a public figure or not, it's not a safe place. And for me, it's magnified. So it's not a safe space to be in that world, especially if you're not 100% aware. Because these things I've been out sober, and even the same things start to happen, right? When people drink, they start to, their insecurities start to show. And when you're somebody who is like very secure with yourself and you work very hard to be where you are, and people don't really see that, like people don't know your full story all the time. They don't really know what you've been through. They just see what's happening right now with you and what you're doing now, but they don't see all the stuff that built up to it. They kind of like start to take those things out on you or start to like make up stories about you or try to take you down because they're not in a good place in their life, right? As well. And most of the time, what I realized is when I've been in those places, I've not been in a good place, right? Like, I've had a lot of like, things go on with family illness and deaths in the family and deaths in my partner's family and and breakups and these are all things that were like sorry if you guys hear that bell, it's my new kitten. He's just having a good old
Oh,
time and I'm not gonna lock him away, so um
no, he can play with us. We
yeah,
enjoy the company.
good. He's having a good time listening to us. I think that this time around with my sobriety, it's like, okay, I tried it before. I did a year and a half. Then I would stop, or then I would go back. After that, I started going back, but I would only go out 1 to 2 days a week. And I thought that was okay. But then I started to realize like people's intentions and what was going on in the last, couple weeks before I truly decided to stop again. Just not so great things were happening just because people's attitudes and demeanors and they see you in a vulnerable place and they want to take advantage of that. And I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I worked way too hard to give it all up again, to lose it all because
Right.
of a substance. And I also, it took me a long time this time around because I was so public about my first sobriety. And maybe in my first time in sobriety, I should have been a little more wary of that, but I've always been authentic and I've always shared my truth. And at the time that I came out about my sobriety, you didn't have a Sean Mendez being, being also publicly sober or anything like that. Like I was one of the few people and maybe one of the only influencer and creators that was really open about it. I wrote a whole chapter in my book about it. And so people took advantage of that. When people see somebody's vulnerabilities, while it's a great thing to share and while it helps a lot of people, it also allows a lot of people to take advantage of that moment in your life and try to put you down or say you're never going to make it, you'll never do this. And what's funny is a lot of the people that said I'll never make it or never do it are now trying themselves. And I but that kind of thing happens all the time in all kinds of aspects of life where people will tell you something but you later find out that it was their insecurities because now they're trying to do it themselves or they were always trying to do it themselves. And I learned a lot this time. I feel like, I turned 29 in October. I promised myself I would not be that person by 30. So if I want to be there and I want to be my best self, my higher self, because when I would even take like a week or two off, like I would, have so many revelations and of course I would do it before shoots or anything I had to do for work because I wanted to look my best. But was I feeling my best? Because a week off is not enough. No. Um, but I was, still being authentic, but maybe not sharing the best parts of myself with everyone. And so I decided, it's time. I'll be 29, like I said, 29 in October, and it is hard. And I think definitely like seeing Aaron Carter's story and everything has helped people allow people to see a whole different side that they haven't seen before. Having these documentaries come out about producers at a young age, people have to understand too, like there's a lot of people that have come on to my journey later on, but they don't realize I started in this industry when I was 15 years old. I was a
Yeah.
baby. I looked like I was 11 when I started, to be honest. I did not look old at all. And I look back and I'm like, the things that happened to me, I can only imagine what happened to the people that were much older than me, that started much younger than me.
Right.
And it's great that it's getting out there more. It's on a bigger platform, and the authenticity should have started before. And that's something that I realized, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stick this one through, and I will be public about it. At first, I was like, do I want to be public about it because now everybody's gonna start judging me again? It might affect my sobriety. No, I want to be public about it because I, I knew Aaron, right? Met him at many red carpets. Was a great guy. we lost somebody very special and extremely talented. I lost my cousin last year to suicide. Um, People need to realize substances affect your mental health. It doesn't matter if you only have one drink a week. Your mental health will be affected. And people need to realize that, I mean, I'm not saying this as a pushy thing or to try to tell people what to do, but
Sure.
I want to share my story in order to maybe help people realize that, it isn't, life isn't easy for anyone. There is no handouts for anyone. And the grass is always greener on the other side. Maybe somebody's rich, but they're being completely controlled their entire life by their family, right? Maybe somebody's poor and can't eat. You know, it's there's always going to be struggles in this lifetime. The best thing we can do is help ourselves. And not only that, but it's important to ask others for help when you need it. And it's okay to share that you're not okay with people. And it isn't always necessary to switch a substance with a pill, because just because a doctor's giving it to you doesn't necessarily mean that it's great for you. And that's something that I learned. That's something that I wrote about in my 10-year autobiography, because I baby little kitty.
Oh, how cute.
Yeah, he says
Love that.
hi. Um, I wrote about the substances because I was put on a pill when I was 15 years old, and that pill was with me until 23 or 24 years old. And it took me a very long time to come off that pill. And when I did, I realized I never needed it. And it was causing a lot of the other problems that I thought that I had, that I was taking other pills for. And I think the best thing to do first is to start with therapy, and then to find something like meditation or a sport that you believe in, and then to find something that you truly believe in that you can help, like help an organization, volunteer, something to fill this space that we filled with drinking and alcohol and smoking weed or whatever it may be, because it's
Well, I think you said something really important in the beginning, is that not only does pills or alcohol, whatever your drug of choice happen to be, kind of change your perception of different things and how you act, but it also lets people in that you might not have the judgment to say, this person's really not good for my life, right? And that kind of is a whole double-edged sword there, where you have other people when you're in this heightened state where you think everything's fine and dandy, but they're just trying to use you. And we talked last time, you've had a lot of that happen in your life in the past. And so I think it's great you can realize that. I mean, one of the best things I've loved since the last time we started is you started your channel on Instagram that's so filled with positivity and a lot of great, I mean, you bring people from all over and different kind of thoughts that you found on the internet. How exciting has that been to kind of keep that positivity out there? That's important, I think.
I absolutely love it, because I think what's great is there's new things being opened on social media that allow us to have different outlets for different things, right? A place to share our art, a place to share our comedic side or our other sides of ourselves that we maybe people don't see because they think one thing of us because they're just seeing an image or just seeing fashion film or something like that. The thoughts and updates were things I used to just incorporate in everything that I do, but this allows for a place. My channel, Thoughts and Updates, and Misfit Life, allows a place for direct, you know, um, I can't think of the word, direct,
Well, one-on-one conversations almost,
yeah,
or just
direct conversation, about the positive things that are going on, or that are inspirational to others. And when I see something that inspires me, I love to share it with other people, because I know that in this vast world of trillions of people, maybe billions, I don't know, trillions, billions, um, y- there's going to be other people that are in your same similar situation, and it doesn't even have to be a billion people. It could be a million people. It could be 10 people. Maybe just 10 people needed to see that this
Yeah.
today, and maybe they didn't see it from somebody else, and you want to share it with them because it's something that helped you. And that's what I do. If it helped me, or it's something, that's always been my journey too. I've always shared. Truly, maybe people didn't see it because they think it's not what I'm going through and it's not my reality at the time. But the things that I write about and the things that I'm sharing are things that I'm going through in my current life, like in my current situation, without being like, woe is me, because I don't want a pity party, right?
Right.
I'm not looking for people to say, oh, I'm sorry for you or whatever. I'm looking to share my story in a way that helps others, right? Because by doing that, that helps me in my dark situation when I'm not feeling great. So number one, I'm getting something inspirational that's inspiring me. And then number two, I'm getting to like share that with others, which is helping others, which also helps me.
I love that. And you're in a lot of high pressure situations. You got runway shows, you have major photo shoots where a lot of people are depending on you. How do you prepare yourself mentally and emotionally for these high pressure situations?
Honestly, I don't think you're ever full. I mean, you can be fully prepared because you're number one, taking care of your body, number two, prepping yourself, practicing, rehearsing, whatever. But you can't rehearse for the random things that are going to happen in your life, right? You have to live in the moment. And that's one thing that took me a very long time to learn, but it's something I am getting better at is living in the moment. And these situations, I guess it's getting easier because 14 years of anything can 14 years of anything can definitely help you to learn and prepare and be ready for any type of mishap or crazy situation that happens. But that is the reality. People rely on artists. Like, you're not the only one involved in this, right? So when people are trying to like take you down or hurt you, they don't realize how many other people's income, livelihood, children, and everything else are being affected by this because they're taking a chance on you. And you are the one responsible to show up, be there, be your 100%, and be your best to help these people pay their bills and to support their children and their families. Because if you don't show up, who's the other person that is? If people rely on you to be there, you're responsible to be there, right? So I've definitely been in situations where I have been super ill, like I've had a cold, I've had a stomach flu or whatever, but I always will show up, and that is one thing for sure. And if I can't show up, I ask if there's another way that we can do it, or a different date that we can do it, or some other way that I can still do what they're asking without showing up if I am really sick, because that has happened once,
Right.
one time in my entire career. I had a booking for a photo shoot, which they didn't really tell me that it was a full on, you know, um, in the park gig or whatever beforehand, but I I was just too sick that day. I had just flown back from my mother having hip surgery. I was already not in a great mental space, and I was also sick with a cold and a little stomach bug. So I said, can I do this in place of this? And it's still very helpful it was still very helpful for the brand, the company. It didn't hurt anyone. So at the end of the day, it is very stressful. The only way that you can stay prepared is be prepared. And by this, you need to be 100 all the time. And my 100 is, or 2000% is, staying sober, eating healthy, being in the right environments. It's very important to have the right friends. It's important to remove myself from situations that are not good, because these all can impact my mental health. And if my mental health is not on par, then that can also affect my work, right? Because
Sure.
a lot of the things that I do involve speaking, interacting with tons of people at one time, trying to remember lines, all kinds of things that if you're not at your 100%, it may not be your best work. And so, yeah, that's how I show up prepared.
Well, in modeling and television and everything is so much a lot of the times about image over substance. Do you ever have a moment maybe where you felt truly seen or understood through your work? Have you had those aha moments where you're working on a project and it's like, this isn't about the image. This is about what we're trying to do and what we're trying to portray. What are those things like? I'm sure they make the whole thing worth it on occasion, right?
You know, um, a lot of it comes with the feedback, right? Like a lot of it comes with what my fans and followers or new people say, after it's put out there. And seeing people say things like, when my book came out or even my posts about certain things and everything, when people say that I got my first message that somebody didn't commit suicide because of my post that day when I was 18 years old. And that forever changed the way that I viewed social media and the impact that it could have in my platform. There are a lot of times on set where I'm like, wow, it's so wild. This was so manifested. And like the way that things sometimes play out that have nothing to do with each other. The team has nothing to do with something else that's coming out, or um for example, I've done things in the past where there's a certain there's certain things happening in the world, and at that time we had no idea, because sometimes you shoot something and it's not coming out for a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year later, and it comes out right at that time, and I see that and I'm like, wow, amazing. Like this was meant to be. And this is very validating that I was supposed to be there in this moment at that time doing this story, because it also helps support positivity and whatever else is going on at that time. So there's a lot of moments like that for me, and I feel like those moments happen the most when I'm the most connected with the universe, most connected with my higher power, and the most and it's hard to be connected with those things when you are using substances, right? So yes, there has been a lot of moments like that.
Well, and talk about the relationship with your body. I mean, you're amazingly fit. Obviously, it's part of a requirement for a lot of your jobs, I'm sure. But what's your relationship with your body and self image? How's that evolved over the years? So, besides just being a job, that you're just happy with yourself and it makes you feel good about yourself.
Well, this one's another long answer. It didn't begin great, right? I was very made fun of in school. Yet while I was a beautiful kid, there was my awkward moment in school where people were not very nice. And then there was the you know, rape incident when I was 14. We talked about that the last time on here, and I know that word is a lot, and sorry if that offends anybody or upsets anyone, but that really affected my thoughts of myself, and that really affected my OCD, and my OCD got so severe that I wanted to create It's Really Ken, which was my first name for my online persona. And it's been a long time coming for me to feel one again with myself and the way I look, right? Because you can be genetically born with abs or whatever, and all these people can be telling you how beautiful you are and how perfect you are and how lucky you are, right? But there's certain things that happen in life that can really affect that for you. And I think what happened to me when I was 14 really affected that for me. And it took me up until this year to truly be happy with myself, with who I am, how I look. I worked very hard to get here. A lot of therapy, a lot of, because it's, I think, and this is just my thought, but being in this industry will eat you alive when it comes to your securities with your image and the way that you look, right? You're gonna always be too short, or you're gonna be too thick, or your face is gonna be too round, or you're gonna be too skinny. And it's like you're gonna have those things said to you by different people during the same time frame, looking exactly the same. And that really, effed with my head. And it took me a long time to just be like, dang, I really am a great person. And I say this to myself, and whether people want to believe it or not, I work very hard to help others. I've always helped others. I help connect people for work if I see an opportunity. I help people, when they're down. I go and see people when they're not feeling well. I do whatever I can. I'll take the shirt off my back to help somebody else. And whether, I don't need to share that online. A lot of people these days are doing it for monetary gain and sharing every one of those moments that they're helping other people online. And I don't necessarily need to do that. Do I talk a lot about how I help people mentally online? Absolutely, because I find that to be very important, because mental health is something we really need to focus on, especially now after the pandemic. But I do, I I think that by helping other people, I've helped myself,
Right.
and they've helped me. And we're always going to have something that we're not so happy about. I get a pimple and I freak out about that pimple and I focus on that pimple and pick that pimple and I make it into a scab and then I hide myself, because it's so easy to focus on something so silly, right? It's so easy to focus on the way that we look as opposed to the way that we act. It's easy to, put our insecurities onto others because we're not happy with ourselves in that moment, right? And these are all things that I've realized. These are all things that I take a lot of learning, a lot of traveling and working all over the world. These are not things that happen overnight. It's not one therapy session. It's not six. These are things that are revelations that take time. And yes, so that would be my answer to that.
No, I think it's great. I mean, I had a great conversation with my buddy Jason Caceres, a good friend of the show for the last 8 years now. And when I met him, he was 99% acting, right? And the last 2 years, he's gone into fitness modeling, exact, and like you, an amazing body. But then when does it become about the body and not about the talent and the intention behind it, which is what I think you said so well, because he's still an excellent actor, but now everyone just knows him for this body, right? And
Right.
so you really have to live to yourself and do what's important to you, because that's just a byproduct of how you feel about yourself, right? And you want to make sure that you're doing it for you and your relationship as opposed to what everyone else, because you don't want to lose yourself in it. And I think that's very
Absolutely.
important. I think you said that well.
I definitely had that phase as well. I had that phase in my career where it was all about my body and the only thing that people wanted was sex, right? I had that moment for a very long time actually, because that's what sells, right? And I think that was never who I was, but I allowed it to be who I was because that's what people wanted me to be.
Right.
And I, always had this strong feeling of truly being who I am. And one thing I will take from my ex fiance before last, one thing I did take from that relationship was some things that he told me. Is that who you want to be? You can always change who people perceive you as at any moment. You don't have to always post shirtless pictures or things about your body to get a message out there. And you know what? I do appreciate that part of that relationship and what he told me about that, because since then I have made a change in what I post and when I post it, the way I post it, because a lot of times too it was me showing off my hard work, but I think that it was people thinking that I was shoving it in their face, and that wasn't the case, right? So there's ways to say things and ways to post things and ways to share things, um that there's just like there's a way to say things, right? A lot of times I didn't realize that people were just misunderstanding me because maybe they were just reading something, and it wasn't in my tone of voice. It wasn't the way that I speak, right? So when I then have seen them down the road, they're like, this thing really offended me, and I'm like, oh, that's not how I meant it at all, actually. And then I say it in my voice and they're like, oh wow, I'm so sorry, I misunderstood you. You're a great person for that, and thank you for explaining. And and that's something I would encourage is people to not just like, I mean, we learned it as a kid, right? Don't judge a book as a cover. I would love for people to work, maybe try a little harder to understand that not everybody is coming from a place of malice. And while there is a lot of that going on in the world, and a lot of haters and people hiding behind fake profiles and cat picture profiles, being so nasty on the internet, not everybody is out there to get you. And that's something I had to learn. So, I think it's important to just know, like, at any moment you can, you know, try to share another part of yourself. I think that's why I started those what I mean videos, because that's always been a part of my personality. It allows people to see that I'm not always being that serious with what I say.
Right.
I am, there's a little truth to everything, right? But it's not always that serious.
It makes it fun for sure. Let's talk about the other side of authenticity for a second. I mean, now we have AI technology increasing in everything. We have people that, I mean, we have people that are buying their followers. We have people that are trying to make themselves a persona through monetary. I mean, I have a friend that was I admit when I first started, I mean, I've been doing this for 9 years now, and I remember that I had to buy 3,000 followers so I could post links on Instagram, right? Remember that before they let everybody do it, you had to have
Yeah.
a certain amount of followers. So I had 7,000 followers. I needed that 10,000 followers. So I bought 3,000 followers. I felt like a sham for a couple of years, but then it's grown organically since. But I know people back in the day that still are buying followers to this day. It's like, why do you feel you need it? And you become so much more successful on your own. Why are you still doing this? Talk about the authenticity of the business and why do you think people are still doing this?
So let's talk about it from a business standpoint. I know personally many people that have bought their followers, right? I know people that have tried to put them on mine, but thank goodness that you can remove spam accounts. Um, and it affected me actually. So they were trying to hurt me, but I, thank goodness, am at my, I've gotten rid of all of the spam accounts. And you know what? I'm grateful for any more that want to go, any more of the spam accounts that get deleted because I don't want them, right? I want an authentic fan base. But let's talk from a business sense, right? And also a mentality. Something that I've been witnessing a lot here in New York is people buying their followers and then, they're not getting brand deals because major brands and stuff like that, they can see that. They have software to see it, right? It's very easy for them to see. I have a lot of friends in PR and everything else that have, told me about it. And what I see a lot of now is like that bothers me so much is they're not just buying followers, but they're buying ego too. So
Mm,
when they
what?
buy this 1 million followers, which how people think it's not noticeable that you just went from 100,000, which if you had 100,000, that's pretty good. That's a lot of hard work and you put a lot of time in to 1 million. I mean, come on.
Right?
And also, you went to 1 million without being on a major network or, doing any collaborations or getting in any news articles. But not like the fake also bought news articles and not like the fake bought and this is also affecting not only the creator community, it's also affecting the model community because you know um what's happening is these people that buy their 1 million followers, what I'm also finding out now from makeup artists and stuff is that these people are also buying the cover of Elle and buying the cover of Vogue. So now because there's no longer print, these major magazines are having to create income from other places. So they're allowing people to buy I've never ever paid for any photo shoot, any cover or anything like that. So it's new to me. I'm starting to be like, because I've had a makeup artist say, "Oh, well, you could just pay, just buy the cover for us." I'm like, "What? I'm not gonna
Right.
buy a cover." Because number one, you have a platform too. You can share things. You don't have to necessarily be on a cover for something to be beautiful art. And
Right.
number three, the authenticity is just gone now. Like people truly believe these people are like famous after they see their Instagram. Like it's not they're not seeing they're not seeing these people on anything else and then they're seeing their Instagram like, oh, this person must be a celebrity. But
Well, and it's both sides too, right? Because you have a lot of magazines saying, "Hey, I'm going to put you on the cover, but I'm not going to pay you a dime. I'm going to give you all this exposure, but the exposure is really for the magazine. You don't get that much out of it, and anything. You're not getting your monetary worth. You're not. I mean, I see that side of it too. I think the magazine
absolutely.
publishers now are really doing both sides of it.
Absolutely. I turn things down all the time. Like some people are like, "Why haven't you ever done this?" And I tell them the truth because I'm authentic. I'm going to be real, but people don't always believe my truth because it seems so unrealistic. I've been asked by a lot of major magazines and stuff to do stuff. And if I'm not gaining anything as well and I'm working, it's work, right? This is my job. So I, it doesn't make sense always to do it. Now, on the other hand, there's companies and magazines that, maybe even beginning ones that I'd love to work with because I had creative direction say. I was allowed to create the art that I wanted. So I was also getting the images that I wanted and wearing the outfits that I wanted and getting to create things that are going to inspire other people and other art, through my authenticity of just being me and wanting to be well rounded as like styling and connector and all of it. So then for me that makes sense, and then people are like, well, why'd you work with that? That's not very big, and it's like, well, it's not always about being very big, right? There's also, I connect a lot of people, right? Like I love to connect people,
Sure.
and help others, help each other. And so I get a lot sometimes where I'll introduce somebody, but they don't have, they only have like 3,000 followers or something. Or, maybe they're like, maybe their office is not like $1 million office because they didn't have huge investors and they built it on their own. The thing is like sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, when you build something on your own, you're gonna be a million times better than that person that had already funds to create an idea of who they are, because you had to be who you are to get there, to make something, to make connections and build a company, build a brand, build a name, and to go on that point, like, I know that I always have my little sidetracks, but to just share something about myself was I always built this. I always built everything that I have on my own. Have I been in relationships where the person had more money than me? Yes. Did people online say, oh, that must be a sugar daddy? The reason his book came out was because of him, blah, 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 blah. Yes, people said that, but was it true? Absolutely not. Had nothing to do with them. I was doing it way before I met them, and I'll be doing it way after I met them. And I think it was crazy because during the pandemic, there wasn't a lot of work, and certain people were having work. And so it made it look like maybe these people were doing these things for me, but they absolutely were not. And a lot of times, I do have management and agents over the years that have done things for me, but a lot of the things that I do have come from me. And I built it, or from the ground up. I built this from the ground up. Whether people want to believe it or not, I did. And that makes me so much more connected and helpful to others because I'm able to connect people to other people who have built themselves from the ground up, right? And that's why when I see something that I believe in, I'm going to help build it until they make me not believe in it anymore. So, yeah.
And you can't fake it or rely on other people for 15 years. You've been doing this now for almost 15 years, and it's going to fall apart eventually, right? If you're not really doing it yourself, and if you're relying on other people are going to see that. No one says that. I mean, you've been working your ass off since you were 15 to make this authentic and true, and move yourself up. And I think people see that, so I think that's very important.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I've actually gotten, I mean, I don't know if it's just like getting older, but I, I've actually had more people like give me the accolades lately. And I really appreciate that because it took me so much pain of people saying that I'm over or whatever, pushing through that to continue going, to show people that I got this and I can still do it and everything else. Um, and so much pain and heartache and wanting to just like, you know, give up in every
Right.
sense and form. But just like a sigh of relief, just to like prove all the haters wrong, prove all the people that told me I would never do it. Like, people still said that 10 years into my career. Maybe it was because I was so young and they knew they could take advantage of my, soft shell. But, you know, the thing is if you want something so badly enough, you're gonna put the work in for it. You're going to work for it. You're gonna prove everyone wrong. And that's definitely something I've spent the last 14 of years of my life doing, and I still do every day, because when an ex tells me that I'm this or that, or when somebody tells me I'm not good enough or that I'll never make it, I think my first time was by a super huge very, 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 very extremely wealthy person, which I won't name, of course, um, that I was just a stupid little kid and I was never going to make it in this industry. And here I am, 14 years later, fully supporting my dreams, fully supporting myself, have my own apartment in New York City. Could have had it probably a lot sooner if I didn't let all those men come into my life and think that we were going to be together forever and make those kind of monetary movements. But I think that everything happens for a reason. Everything happens in the timing that it deserves. I think that everybody gets their moment when it's, time for their moment. I think that I will have that big moment someday because I will continue to work for that big moment someday. I've gotten to a point now where I'm so strong, where I am so knowledgeable on the fact and sense of who is out there for me and who's against me, where I can see what comments are real that I should take as constructive criticism and not take as constructive criticism. And that took the 14 years to build up. So, am I ready for that next big step? Absolutely. And I think, was I ready before when I thought I was? Absolutely not. I think that I would definitely have caved, probably not still be alive had I had those big moments before. Even though I had a lot of big moments, they weren't that really big moment to create. And it's not that I want fame, it's that I want a bigger platform to help more people. I want to be able to, allow people to know that a lot of the things people say are not true about me. And that's something people in my position deal with a lot as like a C-lister or B or C or D lister, is that people don't we don't have that security that these A-listers have, but we deal with the same things that they deal with, which is people making stuff up about us, trying to take us down, destroy us, reaching out to our clients, trying to make up stories. And what's crazy is that none of these people ask for proof. So that's another thing that I love to fight for, is that if you want to see, if you have somebody saying something about somebody, and maybe, well, first of all, you should never believe them if it's on a personal level. But if it's on a business level, then there better be hard proof. But you should still give that person a chance before you start believing whatever it is that these people are saying, because you don't know what the whole story and both sides of the story was, right? So, yeah, I'm gonna stop my
Well,
rant
my
there.
friend, you deserve all the accolades and all the snaps and everything. I mean, you really deserve, and you need it too. I mean, you need to know that what you're doing is worthwhile to others to keep you motivated to keep doing that. So I've appreciated you for a long time. I appreciate you coming back. We're going to finish up with one question. If you could curate a fashion show with a theme or message right now of your beliefs, what would it be, and kind of what would you want to do with it? What is your message you would like to curate, and how would you do it?
You know what I would absolutely love to do? I would love to take all of the people that have shared their truth online and social media and the media and the press, all of the people from every different realm of the industry, and do a fashion show with them, and then take all of the designers that have also shared their truth over the years and worked so hard, that have kind of all of the people that have fallen under a little bit because of the new TikTok era. I would love to put them all together, and I would love to also just make it into like a documentary where everybody shares their story, because I think that the younger generations need to know. I mean, this generation in particular, Gen Z, needs to know, needs to realize like what we put into this for them to have the platform that they have today. Because what's wild is they think that they came up with all of the themselves, but the things that they're, saying, and the being real that they're being, is not things that haven't been said before on a larger scale and platform. Because the thing is these kids are having like all these, like overnight 1 million people, but that's not 1 million people that have followed a 10-year, 14-year, 20-year story. That's 1 million people that saw one video that maybe had no importance to society, you know, no offense, and followed them. So it's
Well
important
said.
for them to understand, so that way they can maybe share their truth, and maybe they can use their platform now to build something that can help all these people that they can reach, And that's the importance of it. It's not because I'm not jealous about it. I think it's great. I just wish that they were doing something more with it. That's all. And so
That would
that's why
be
I
an
think doing this,
amazing project.
it would be amazing. I think it would be I think it needs to happen. And I think that it's definitely something that I've been doing a lot of thought on, putting a lot of thought into.
Time for you to start producing again, my friend. I think you're a producer in the making right there. I love that.
Thank you.
Brandon Cole Bailey, thank you so much for coming back on Left of Str8. We have to have you as like a regular segment. I got to get you on once a month or so just
That
to
would be amazing.
uplift
Absolutely.
everybody. I think you'd be amazing. For those that are living under a rock, remind them where they can find you on social media and subscribe to your Mistro. I think I love
it. Thank you. My Instagram channel is at Brandon Cole Bailey with the number 1. And then my Facebook is Brandon Cole Bailey. And my YouTube is Brandon Cole Bailey.
Stay on the line for my friend, guys. We're going to have a special 5 questions with Brandon next Tuesday, so be sure to look for that. Follow my friend here. I mean, just such a great journey, such a hard worker, and deserving all the accolades, my friend. We will talk to you next time right here in the Left of Str8 Show interviews. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Left of Str8 Show. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast distributor, and please give us a 5-star rating so more listeners can find us. You can follow us on social media, and be sure to check out our website for contests and other news and information. See you next week.